Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back your host, Natalie Allen.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. How was lunch? How was lunch? How were your breakout sessions? Good? Awesome. Well, I want to thank Cox Communications. They provided our lunch, and at one point, Cox is here. At one point in my career, I worked for Cox Communications. They own some TV stations as well. So we're going to get going with our panel. I've been meeting the women on my panel at lunch. They're really cool. I think they're going to have some great advice about where they've gotten in the world. So we are going to kick off It's a Man's World, Not Really. So please welcome my guests. All right. All right, ladies. Oh, I didn't even see the shoes. All right. I hadn't seen their shoes. I have with me, to my left, with the hot blue and black shoes, Tina Quigley. She's General Manager of RTC, which we're going to learn what that is. She is a transportation diva, okay?
Or geek, but I'll go with diva.
Next to Tina, I have Kathy Toll. She's Senior Vice President of LVCVA. And if you're from LV, you know what LVCVA is. It's the Convention and Visitors Authority. Welcome to Kathy. And over here from Atlanta, my city, well, via New York, is Lillian Rodriguez Lopez. She is the Vice President of Sustainability and Stakeholder Relations for Coca-Cola. So round of applause for our guest. So we're going to talk about a lot of things, but because I'm a news reporter for CNN, I've always tasked to ask a really tough question, to find the conflict or something tough, no matter what the subject is. So I want to start out by asking these executive women a really tough question. And I want to know, is it in the manual at your level that you wear a black jacket with a colored underpinning? Notice the black jacket with the colored underpinning. I learned the word underpinning when, no, I'm just kidding.
We call it a uniform.
A uniform.
Yeah, it's our uniform, yeah.
You have a certain uniform, but it works, okay? It works, I think it works, so I'm just kidding around. I want to start by just, give us a sense, I just gave you your titles, that didn't really tell us what you do. So let's start with you, Tina.
Okay.
What do you do?
So the Regional Transportation Commission in Southern Nevada is the agency that's responsible for everything related to transit and transportation. So we're the public transit agency. We operate in the signalization system. We do the planning and funding of roadways. The way I explain it to people is that for the most part, we are the agency that does everything in terms of mobility with the exception of two things. We don't regulate the taxi cabs, the state does that, and then we don't operate the monorail. That's a private sector business.
Okay, Kathy had a good response when I asked backstage. You said what about what Tina does?
Well, the LVCVA is responsible for bringing visitors to Las Vegas, and Tina's responsible for moving those people around. So
there you go.
If you had a good experience,
You get them,
Tina.
I move them.
If you didn't, talk to Tina. Tina's responsible for moving 41 million visitors around every year.
So we get an idea of what you do, Kathy, but give us a sense of what's under.
Under my umbrella, I'm responsible for the marketing at the LVCVA, and so we have marketing and sales, advertising, research, industry relations. All of those functions fall under me.
Okay. Lillian, you've got a fancy title at Coca-Cola. She's been at Coke for 3 years, so.
Excellent brand placement.
Thank you for the brand placement. First of all, I want to acknowledge my Coca-Cola colleagues at table 4 and table 11.
All right.
So what I do is I work in our public affairs and communications function for the company for North America. And what I do is reputational risk management. So I do all of our paid, earned media, not paid media, our earned media and our issues management in the media space. And I also do stakeholder relations. So that's more about strategy. Who do we work with? Who should we be working with? How do we get a message out about our social commitments and what a great company we are? So that's what I do. It's a great job.
Sounds like it. I liked it that Mary Chris this morning talked to us about how she got her start. You know, now she's got this wonderful career she's had. She told us, you know, she was a part-time worker at a jewelry store and her struggle. So I just wondered, I was going to go to Paris and start my career. I ended up starting it in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I am not knocking Fort Smith when I say that because I learned a lot there, but just went small to ups. Just where did you get your start? Are you doing what you thought you would do? I know the answer is no. I learned this backstage. So tell us what you were going to do.
All right, so I started out, I was going to be a pilot. I was going to be a pilot because I wanted to travel, and I did not want to be a flight attendant because that was too female for me. I wanted to be out there, competing with men. So I went to an aviation school. I actually became a private pilot, and I sometimes still fly, not often enough. But I did have a few setbacks. One, it was very expensive to get all of your ratings if you want to become a commercial pilot. And in doing the ROI on that, I realized I was going to have a tough time because a couple things. One, I was female, and at the time, this is in the mid-late 80s, they were not hiring a lot of women as commercial pilots. And then lastly, the nail in the coffin was I had bad eyes. This was before LASIK. So so I changed careers. I became an airport planner. And in between my junior and senior year of college, I came out to Las Vegas, McCarran Airport, to do a summer co-op where you can earn some college credits for working. And it was a great experience. I was so lucky to have that, but I decided two things. One,
This is good.
I didn't want to be a government employee because I was surrounded by government employees. I wasn't going to do that. And then two, I didn't want to live in Las Vegas because it was just too hot.
So she's been a government employee and she's lived in Vegas for 25 years.
Like Kathy said, somebody forgot to read the memo. Yes, I forgot to read my own memo. So I graduated and I had it was a recession year, I had two job opportunities. One, I could go to work for America West Airlines making $15,000 a year, or McCarran Airport asked me to come back making $25,000 a year. So I decided two things. I could be a government employee and I could live in Las Vegas.
Sold.
Done.
Very
25
good.
years later, I'm still here in government service, and I actually really like it. I really love what I do. I do think that being in a local government agency, especially one like ours that has the ability to effectuate so many people's lives, is extremely fulfilling.
Absolutely. And so many people coming into Las Vegas as well, quite busy. Well, I know that Kathy started out as a news reporter, but she saw the light and got out of journalism. Some of us are been in it for 30 years.
I did. I started, I got my degree in communications and actually started at a daily newspaper in upstate New York, and the first job that you get in a newsroom like that is cops. So I wrote cops, I wrote police report, I did the police beat, and I wrote obituaries. And if you ever want to, feel like you should do something with your life, you should write a few obituaries because it's an interesting thing to do.
It's the lowest thing, cops and obits.
Cops and obits.
That's you starting here and you're moving up.
So, I did that for 5 years and then moved down to Albany, New York. I grew up in upstate New York and worked at Albany Medical Center doing public relations, and I decided that was one step up from a reporter because you could have a little more latitude and I didn't have to do cops and obits. And I moved to Las Vegas 19 years ago to actually work in healthcare at an ambulance company here in town, Mercy Ambulance, which is no longer, it's now American Medical Response, but it was a great transition, and I went to the LVCVA 10 years ago, actually started in strategic planning. And my job at the LVCVA when I started was really to look at everything that would hinder visitation. So it was really to look at the transportation systems and to look at, there was one fuel pipeline bringing fuel into the valley and all the things that would stop visitors. And so I used to tell my marketing colleagues, well, market all you want, but if they can't get here and they have a miserable experience, they're never going to come back. And so moving into the marketing side, I've brought that with me. Always to remember that if people have a miserable experience, they're never coming back.
That's very good. Lillian, you were in the nonprofit world for a long time, but where did you start?
Well, it's interesting to see all the commonalities between some of the things that we're discussing, because I'm actually a communications major also. I studied broadcast journalism in New York because I wanted to be a news producer, and worked at CBS Audience Relations for a while, reading manuscripts for 60 Minutes and the CBS Morning News, and this will never get covered. So that's what I did. And then because of the relationships, I got into public relations for the New York City hospital system, which was like the biggest public benefit hospital system in the country at that time. And then from there, I worked for 11 years, and I did governance work and human resources work, and then went into nonprofits and ran an organization, a national nonprofit in New York for about 8 years, and that's how I came to Coke. So when you look at it, it's very unique to have worked in all three industries, to have been, you know, private business, corporate, government, and nonprofit. And the way I like to think about it is, it was not about the industry, it was about the transference of skills. So every time I did something, I was learning something or engaged in a body of work which you could transfer it to the new thing you wanted to do. So how I ended up at Coca-Cola was, I went there to do U.S. Hispanic Community Relations. Not quite a stretch, right? And because I'm Hispanic and I know a lot of people, and I was doing stakeholder relations anyway, and I was leading a lot of national coalitions. So that work brought me to the company, and because I had done so much policy work, and every company faces issues in the public discourse that you need to be able to understand and translate, so that consumers and other stakeholders and influencers understand what is the issue that you're talking about. The people who hired me said, you know policy, you can take the things that we're doing as a company and the issues we're facing and translate that in a way that will resonate with communities around the country. So that's how I got to Coke.
All right, now you're going to make it happen there. I'm going to go back to Kathy just one moment, because I know that our speaker this morning, Ms. Gay, said that she started out making, what, 15,000 or 25,000. I started out making 11,000. My mom said, well, you can't take that job. I go, well, I have to. You cannot break into this business. I have to take it. And she said, well, go ask for more money. I'm like, oh, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. We're going to talk about this, how women don't ask for raises enough. I went back and I said, well, actually, to my news director, I'm going to have to make more money than $11,000 a year. He goes, well, 11,200. I go, you're on, baby. 11,200. I want to know, how much did you make as Cops and Obits beat reporter?
$12,000 a year.
She beat me. Oh, okay, good for you. Yes.
You could have gone to work for America West Airlines.
Oh, that's right.
$15,000.
Well, I want to talk about, now that you've come to this place, you're leaders and you have staffs and you have a leadership position and a title, and that would kind of freak me out. I'm just in journalism, so it's not like it's different. But I don't know what kind of leader I would be or what I'm supposed to be. And even Jim was talking this morning about how important it's been to see diversity at MGM, because women and different kinds of people bring different perspectives and a different point of view. And that's really important to have blended voices around the table. So I want to know, how do you handle, first of all, being a female leader? What have you figured out? I just want to point out 2 books. There's a lot of books about being a female leader. One of them was written by a CNN executive, now retired, called Play Like a Man, Win Like a Woman. There's another one, a new one out. I interviewed the author. She was a co-founder of HGTV. It's called New Rules of the Game. And in her book, she talked about women putting on their tough face, their Angela Merkel face, perhaps, and that we shouldn't have a tough face. The bottom line is, it's complicated to be a female leader. If you're too tough, you're branded, that word none of us like. And then if you're too soft, you can't be everyone's mom, right? So where do you find that middle ground? So I'd like to ask you each that, and how you found what's a good place for you and who you are.
Well, I think, yeah, well, first, yeah, that's a big one. And I think we have to recognize, too, that the corporate culture in each one of our industries is very different. So the corporate culture of the Regional Transportation Commission or a local government agency is going to be very different than the corporate culture at Coca-Cola, or the corporate culture in the finance industry or in the gaming industry. In local government, I think that you see a lot more female leaders than you probably do in some other industry sectors. So to some extent, for me, a lot of the women who have gone before me have broken down a lot of the barriers and created credibility and respect for for women, so I don't feel quite the challenge. I think that maybe other people do in other women in other industries. When I go into I am in transportation, so for the most part, I am often the only female in the room. But increasingly that's changing, though. Increasingly, you are seeing a lot. I think I'm looking back on my airport days when a lot of times I was the only female in the room, and now not so much. And I don't know that I always define myself as being a female leader. I think I define myself as being a leader for Southern Nevada. I'm insanely passionate about Southern Nevada and the infrastructure in Southern Nevada. So I think it's, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
Yeah, your answer is you never identified yourself, I'm a leader. You're just someone who's passionate about her work.
Yeah.
And that's how you see it.
Yeah.
So that's a good answer. I think that anyone who's contemplating being a leader it's kind of overwhelming to think, oh, I can't think I'm a leader now. Oh, I have to do this.
No, you don't
You're
even
just
think about that.
passionate about your job.
Go, yeah. This is where I want to go. I want to get here, and so I don't think about all that.
Okay, what about you, Kathy?
I think what's interesting is when I was promoted to senior vice president, one of the local reporters called and he wanted to do a story because I was the highest ranking woman in the history of the LVCVA when I was promoted. And it was it was during the recession. We were going 900 miles an hour. We had 100 openings. Everybody was working more than one job at the time. We were all doing several people's jobs. And I stopped for a minute and went, I wonder why? Because the organization is more than 50 years old. And so we had a vice president of finance at the time who was a woman. And the fact that I became a senior vice president and all of a sudden there was a story that you were going to write about it was just an odd sense of who you are, right? It's that sense of place. And now the organization has a number of female leaders. We have, several vice presidents who are women. We have another senior vice president of finance who's a woman. And so you see how the world is changing. But I think to kind of talk a little bit about what Tina has said, I think for me it's always been the same idea of I just want to do all I can do. I want to make sure I can go as far as I can go, that work is important to me and that I'm passionate about what I do. And being a woman is different, obviously, than the male colleagues, but it was never a differentiator as far as, well, I can't do that because I'm a woman. I would just sometimes have to come at things differently. And let's face it, if you're a female leader, you are often called the B word when people don't like what you're saying. Well, I'm okay with that. I have 7 sisters and I'm pretty good with that. I can very nicely tell you what I want. I don't care whether you like it. And so I think that is the difference for me in being a leader, is making sure that I'm leading and I'm not using my sex as an excuse. But I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes people aren't going to like what I have to say because I'm a woman and sometimes in a man's world, and I'm okay with that.
It's definitely, there's more pressure on women. I think that women are judged more harshly just because there's not as many of us in the room with leadership positions, so it's a little bit harder. I know you came from nonprofit to a corporate world, Lillian, but you were top dog in the nonprofit world as well.
I mean, look, ladies, I'm going to probably agree with my colleagues and also maybe just have a slight perspective. It's different. It is different. I think if you're a young woman, sometimes it's very hard because people treat you like you're that nice young girl. So sometimes when I mentor young women, I say, oh, guess what? Here's the reality. You're going to have to age into your position because people treat you like you're this nice young girl who should still get their coffee. 1. 2 is I think you also get to a certain, every stage in your career is different, right? So you have to understand the role that you have and how you're positioned and how you make yourself known and your work valued, but more important than that, respected. So you were mentioning, Kathy, you're in an industry where you have a lot of men. I was doing national public policy, and again, I tell you, also government. I was in government for 11 years in healthcare, and you would sit in a room, and I would say it, and I'll say it now. I could say something, the man or the guy next to me would repeat it, and it'd be like, oh, that was brilliant. So that there's no guessing, I'm 52 years old, and there are certain things that yes, right. There are certain things that you're not quite sure of when you are a little younger in your career, and then when you get to be a certain age, you're like, oh no, you didn't. So I got to the point where I used to lead a coalition, a national coalition, and there were women in the room, but the majority of them were men, and they were older than me, and they were from the Beltway. So Washington, D.C. itself creates a particular culture. And one time they did it, and they just did it one time too many. And I turned around to someone who I had a trusted relationship with, and I said to him, I said, you know that I just said the same thing, right? So why did it just gain value when he said it? Now, it was a closed conversation. Obviously, it wasn't a panel, and I wasn't working for Cope. And you know what I mean? And he went, oh my God, did we just do that? I'm so sorry. Every once in a while, you have to call people on their behavior. And I am different. I can show emotion, but I can't be emotional. And there's a difference. I can be excited, I can be energetic, I can be positive. Those are all great emotions to have in a workplace. I can show frustration, I can be the bee, I own it. But that's the other thing, own your behavior. Own your behavior. I am a woman, I am different. We are very similar, we are human beings, we all want to be great leaders. I think that I show, most of the time good leadership qualities, but sometimes I don't. And then I own when I am not being a great leader or a great manager or a great mentor, whatever it is whatever role I'm assuming at that time. But I know that I am different. And sometimes you are judged differently. So I have a great colleague, when he does something for the women on his team, they're like, oh my God, he's so great, he's so understanding, he's so generous with us. When I do it, it's like, she's being soft. Are you being soft? It's like, wait a minute. Scott just did the same. I just outed Scott Williamson. Hey, Scott, hi. When Scott does it, it's just perceived differently. So you do learn to deal with the perceptions. And the other point, I have a whole bunch of great colleagues. Where's Elizabeth Jones? If I talk too much, she's supposed to say, Diet Coke break.
No Diet Coke break. I loved it. I love what you just said. And I totally agree about the, when you turn a certain age. For me, it was 45. After that, I was like, I don't have to take anything. I've earned the right to say whatever it is that I want to say. And there's something very empowering about aging.
And you still, again, don't go out there, You still have to understand the context of who you're working with, read the room, read the situation, right, and the leaders that you're working with, but you must stand your ground and feel that you have a right not only to be there, but to articulate your thinking. And I think that's the most important thing, to be respected and know that when you're in these professional settings, that your opinion is valued.
It's having confidence, right? So at the end of the day, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but as a female leader, you have to have confidence. And if you want to ever be a leader, male or female, you have to have confidence. And you may not always know the answer, but having confidence in saying, this is what I know and I'm not going to make something up, and here's what I don't know, but I can find out and come back with another answer, is not pulling yourself down. It's actually building yourself up. Because people want to trust that when you say something, that they can believe you, that you're not making it up, that what you're saying is legitimate and true, and you're confident about it. Because as soon as you're not confident, people, male and female, will look for opportunities to pull you back down. Anytime you're not confident. You have a limp handshake, you better work on your handshake. There's nothing I hate more when really? What are you doing? Put a little muscle
We just had a whole lecture. You missed it. We had a whole lecture on handshakes.
Good. Make sure you learned something.
Yeah, in one
I
of
was
the tracks. I'll
shaking
teach
hands,
it to you.
kissing babies, but you have to have confidence.
What was the message in the lecture on handshakes?
Oh, you want me to teach you?
Yes.
So, this was fun. Really, I can do this? Okay, guys, I just learned this, so I hope I do this right.
Are you going to hurt me?
No, no. So you're going to want to have your palm out like this, all right? You want to touch the web, all right? And if I really care about you, or if I'm in an Asian culture, I can do this.
Or the crossover.
Or the crossover. But here's what's really important, is that you look into their eye and take notice of the color of their eye. Because as you're doing that, it's a little mental trick, but you're doing that, you're relating to the person, and then you want to project, just through thoughts, I'm interested in you. I really am interested in meeting you.
Okay.
Did I do that right? For those of you who were in the,
And Tina,
Hey,
color are my eyes?
What color are my eyes?
Blue.
Okay.
Okay, we did it. I like that. You learn something new every day. Something else I
I
learned.
just learned that too.
That's good. See, you learn things at this conference, okay? All
Happy
right.
with that.
Some real tasks. We have, where I work, we have rotating young people starting up that come through the studio. So every week there's someone different running the studio, and I have to try to remember the names. And one person told me years ago to remember names, you should always put like a famous person to it. So Kathy Rigby. You don't even remember who Kathy Rigby was. So you remember. Tina Fey. You know, just like all these things. So I do that at work a lot. So that's just my little tip. I wasn't in your session, but I like everything that you said. Everything that you said was about being honest with yourself, being who you are, and yes, confidence goes a long way. But and Lillian's sense of humor. You're fun. I can tell. I'd want to work for her. She's fun, right?
I try to be. You got to keep a sense of humor.
You really do. And just, you know, in the TV news world, we're more relaxed. You know, see people on TV, it's not stiff anymore. I think it's the same way, right? In government or nonprofit or corporate, it's relaxed. It's authentic. It's social media has changed the world, and it's changed it in a good way in that regard, that people are more authentic and such. So you talked about confidence, you talked about courage, being authentic. Who have you had to lean on? I thought it was real interesting this morning that Mary Chris talked about her friend Jane, right? Everything was about her friend Jane. I could tell she leans on her friend Jane. Have you had mentors? Did you have a boss? Is it your mom? Is it your kids? Is it your husband, your best friend? We don't have to always start with you. I'm not going to her. Someone else has got to start first.
I think you have to build a circle of trust. I think that's important. It's important when you're trying to take the next step at work, when you're trying to make sure that you're making the best decision for the company you're working for, when you're trying to make the best decision about your kids. And I think you can take that circle of trust in any place in your life, but you have to have one. You have to have those people that you can call when you're just not sure what to do, or when you think you have the best, next, greatest idea and you want to share it and you want people to buy into it and you need to bounce that off somebody. And I think that is what really makes a difference, is making sure that you have that circle. And it doesn't have to be giant, but you have to have it. And if you don't have it, it's very difficult to succeed. You have to be able to have somebody who's honest with you. You have to have somebody who will say, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then sometimes you pull on your courage and you do it anyway and say, well, I'm going to do it because I don't think it's dumb. But you need to be able to have that honest conversation. And I think that goes a long way to helping make people successful.
That's good. For me, I try not to bring things home to my teenage son. I'm a single mother, so I can come home and just unload on him about the news business. And he doesn't always want to get the world's worst news, because with the international news, it's very grim these days. But I came home one morning from work. I said, I just have to vent. He goes, okay. He was like waking up. I work in the middle of the night. I said, I'm just frustrated about the writing. The writing's supposed to be active voice and passionate and conversational. It just hasn't been that way, and blah, da, 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 da. I'm just going. My son's sitting there like this. And then when I finished, I felt bad. He goes, Mom, you're so passionate. How adorable. I had no idea. I think it was a good thing that I vented with my son. For the most part, I try not to take it to the family. What about you, Lillian?
That's a great response, because I was thinking about that. I'm also a single mom. My daughter's 23, and I've been a single mom since she was 12. I always wanted her to have an appreciation for what I did and why I was passionate about it and why it was important to me, but I never brought my family problems to her, like bills or things we had to pay for, things we could do or couldn't do. It was like, you are my child. You are not my substitute, husband. And so I always am, counsel people to be very careful about that. So I appreciate that you said that, because you don't want to do that with them. A couple of things. One is, always had mentors that were male and female, because I think, yes, people share characteristics and competencies and thinking, but you get these just wildly different perspectives sometimes. So I used to have a great male mentor who I would go, and this is happening, and he would go, I don't get it, what's the problem? It would be like, I was so much into like my whole like thing, like, oh, isn't this terrible? And it's like, no, they asked you to do this, just do it and it'll be over with. And it would be like, wow, what an aha moment. And then I had this tough boss who was also a mentor to me, who would just be like, You're not doing this. And if I see this, I will pinch you in a meeting. So what I'm trying to say is like, I think you have all kinds of support groups. I think it's really important though, in addition to having, you know, family and your spouse or another loved one or best friend or whatever, try to find colleagues that you can really run things by. They're in meetings with you, they witness the same things you do. That way you can get their perspective also on a situation or an action that gets taken. And the reason for that is, you know, you don't realize it. You're with these people 10 hours a day. That's important. It's important to feel connected inside of the organization that you work for. And I hear too many times people will say, well, they're not here to be your friends, or they're not your friends here, so watch out. And it's like, well, if that's the truth, then that's a really sad statement about the people I work with and the organization I'm with if I don't feel that I can bond or have a solid relationship with some of my colleagues. So it's not going to be everyone, but I would encourage you to do that, because also you never know where people are going to land. And if you're good with people and you work and embrace your work setting, you know what? People remember you, and they remember the type of work that you did, and they will look for you when they are promoted. By the way, I want to tell you something funny, and then I'll Diet Coke break. 3 of the people who work for me now were my peers before, and I had judgments on them. Most of it good, but there was one person that I remind you, remember when I used to call you? You always used to say no to me, and I used to call you the no person. You just never know where people, you know, where you're going to land.
You know, you don't. I was hired by CNN in '92. I saw the door in 2001 during 9/11 because it's just like that in my business. And in 2009, I got called back to CNN International by people that used to run camera for me at CNN, because now they're up here, and they remember Natalie was nice. Like, I was? I didn't feel like it.
God, it was a good
Oh God, it was a good day.
They remembered you were a great reporter.
That's very, very kind of you. So, and I would think, is it a little nerve-wracking when you get that office and you get that executive assistant? Oh, I feel like I'd made it if I had that. I've never had that. Pardon me? What'd she say? I would feel like I don't want to be alienated now. You're still one of the, I can tell you go out of your way to make sure this is a team, and you feel like you have that. Who do you count on, or who do you go to?
Well, you know, one of the things about being
Your husband's a pilot. He's always gone.
Yeah, and I wouldn't talk with him about work anyways. One of the things about being the general manager or the boss is that you have to be really careful to not use your executive team as your friends. You really have to be, or any of your employees, and you also have to be real careful about some of the consultants and business relationships that you've got, not crossing that line. So it leaves you down to, like you talked about, Kathy, just this small circle of trust, small circle of friends that you can use as your mentors or your friends, or to seek advice with, and kind of vent with and share your frustrations with in order to keep your sanity. But yeah, you have to have that to keep your sanity, but you have to be really picky about who it is that you have in that circle.
Yeah, I have my quick dial team, the people that were going to shoot me straight, my friends that I've grown up with, my best friend since I was 3. Luckily, I have her. I can give her anything, and she has an answer clear as day. Why did this take you? Come on, because I'm really wishy-washy about things. Well, I want to talk about at the end of your day, at the end of your 10-hour day, Lillian, 10 hours, impressive. What do you do, like, for inspiration, or what do you do to make sure you're still on top of your game? Like, I used to read. I used to like reading. Now I'm just an iPhone addict, and I have to say I've lost the ability to read outside of HuffPost, Salon, Slate, NewYorkTimes.com. My meaty thing is TED Talks. I'm sure you've been inspired by TED Talks. That's one thing that you can do, like on your iPhone before you go to bed. So do you read? Do you watch documentaries?
HGTV.
Yes.
HGTV. HGTV for inspiration. Yes.
Well, not inspiration. I thought you said, what do you do when you want to clear your mind?
Well, I think HGTV is good for inspiration. How to decorate your home.
Yeah, I see all these homes I want, so I'm like, yeah, that's good. That'll keep me working for another 15 years. I want to go to Waco, Texas, just to see the Gaines, Chip and Joanna Gaines. I mean,
I love them.
I think it's, you know, my inspiration is really my family. Like now my sister lives near me in Atlanta. She just moved about 3 months ago. So I'm getting, you know, you get more of that sense of community. My daughter is living with me and working also in Atlanta. So she wants my guidance, and she does those dumps on me like, oh, you can't believe it, and da-da-da. And I'm like, Liz, get a grip on yourself. You know, this is normal, or this is okay. I have a lot of books. I wish I could get through all of them, but I have all of those great bios, and they're right there in my nightstand. It's really just reading, and I like biographical books, things where I'm really reading about real life people and their experiences and their trials and tribulations and their successes and stuff like that, because I think it keeps me grounded. And every once in a while, a good summer read is great too, right?
Gone Girl.
Yeah, Gone Girl. No, that was too killing.
I didn't read it. Okay, you like it?
No,
Too killing.
I mean like those, like, we went to the beach and he was gorgeous and I met him. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be the girl in the beach.
That's her inspiration. That's her inspiration. Yeah. Yeah. Let's let this question be inspiration/recreation. Okay. So because it's all good, isn't it? My recreation is Netflix. That's my boyfriend. I'm dating Netflix because I have no boyfriend, but I've got Netflix.
I'm dating Netflix.
You're dating Netflix, and she's married. So.
Oh, I guess I'd be having an affair with Netflix.
Yes, exactly. Yes, but I understand we'll talk about decompressing because that's a whole nother subject. But what about you, Kathy? Where do you get your inspiration?
You know, I do like to read biographies. You know, when I read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, I was like, oh, everybody has to buy this. I bought like 3 of them, brought them to the office, and they're all like, oh yeah, okay. I'm like, you know, it's not all, like some of it I read, all right, whatever. But there are some parts in there that were so powerful. And I think in a lot of books like that, you can find, they're easy reads. You can read them on a plane. I fly a lot. Thank God for the iPad, and I don't have to carry books anymore because they're heavy. But you can fly through, books like that are just, there's nuggets in there. And so I think, looking for places like that. But then also things like picking up a magazine. I get Wired and Ink magazines in the office, and I'll stack them. Anybody that works with me knows I stack them on the end of my desk, and people are like, are you ever going to read those? I'm like, I am going to read them. And then I'll bring them all home and just flip through them on a weekend. And it's things that you think that all of a sudden you just look at differently when you're reading an article about it or looking at a picture. I'll see a great ad and think, oh, why can't we do that? And so I think those are the places where you just have to kind of let your mind go. I mean, I love to cook. I'm not a great cook, but I do love to cook. And I love cookbooks with pictures because I'm all about the visual satisfaction.
Book without a picture. Yeah.
If my meal looks like that, I've already made it halfway. Doesn't matter what it tastes like. And so I think you have to allow yourself in that time to also, it allows you to mull through issues, right? When you're just reading trashy romance, which there's nothing wrong with trashy romance. And if you drop it in the pool, it doesn't matter. And so, having that or cooking or reading a magazine that's, I was reading a People magazine last week when I was on vacation. I can't remember the last time I read a People magazine. I was like, every page. My husband's like, what are you reading? I'm like, this is the best, all of that. Did you know? But it's all of those things that you're like, what, people want to have that, they want to be inspired by all kinds of things and all kinds of places. And I think
bubble gum for the mind.
It's okay, it's like, hey.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Whatever works for you, yes. I used to, years ago, would fine my son $1 every time if he said the word Kardashian. Well, now it's like, what'd they do? Tell me the latest, because it's just a way to get out of my news world, and it's all good. It's all right. Well, I want to talk to you also about another lifestyle question. This is the mother of all questions. We all ask it amongst ourselves. We're all working moms up here. And so I even start to ask the question sometimes about how do you balance your life, and I just stop because I think, oh, well, you just do. You just do. You find whatever works. But we were talking, there is a formula you have to that helps you. I have a really hard time with it. I was trying to think, well, what do I do on my off time? I'm like, all I do is fall behind and then I catch up. That's all I do. That's pretty lame. I fall behind with cleaning my house, then I catch up. And then next week I might get my car dirty, it might be clean. So that's just that. But work-life balance, I haven't figured it out. So I would love to hear from you because I know we were talking about having help, having work inside the house, help inside the house, and then it's tough because that's someone else you have to manage. Or I hired my dog sitter, became my child sitter. If you can keep my dog alive, I love Biscuit. You know, you keep Biscuit alive, you can keep Nicholas alive. So Karen is in charge of Biscuit.
Did they start out as a plant sitter? Did you have to water the
No,
plants
she wasn't
first,
the plant
and
sitter.
then you graduated to the dog sitter?
Yeah.
And then,
Plant sitter to dog sitter to kid sitter, yeah.
Just as long as they don't think they're the same food.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So the mother of all questions, work-life balance, especially, I mean, gosh, I'm telling you, when I started out in the 80s, when I would be interviewed, people would say, well, do you think you got your job because you were pretty? We were still getting those questions. I was like, well, this is makeup, first of all. But we don't get those questions anymore. We don't get the questions, oh, you going to go back to work? No, that's gone away. Women just go back to work. After you have children, we're just working. So I think the good news is that it's just accepted. No one's making me feel bad that I'm a working mom. So I feel like I'm bringing a lot to my son with my work experience. I take him on stories with me sometimes. And I get to share a lot of my things from work with him. So, but what do you do to help you? Kathy, I'm going to go in the middle and start with you this time because I know you have teenagers at home. You grew up with 7, so this should be a cake for you.
Yeah, I was one of 9.
Oh yeah,
actually.
7 sisters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I have 3 kids, 15, 16, and 18. And, you know, I think the thing about work-life balance, and at the end of the day, it's first recognizing that it's not always balanced. That you're not always going to feel balanced. And in fact, a lot of times I don't feel balanced. I feel like I'm pretty balanced. But sometimes I'll say no to something at work because I think, you know, I've been gone and I need to go home and I need to make dinner because my kids need to have a conversation that is just around the dinner table, and that's important. And so I think for me, work-life balance has always been about kind of feeling out what's most important. And my family obviously is most important to me, but making sure that, you know, some days I say, you know, I've made dinner and it's in the fridge and now they're old enough, thank God, to feed themselves. And although you wouldn't know it when they call me and go, what's for breakfast? Really? You're home and I'm at work, so go downstairs and look. But I did get that call week after school got out. My 18-year-old, hi, Mom, what's for breakfast? Really? Working. But I think it's making sure that you recognize the moments when you need to be at work and working, and recognizing the moments that you need to be at home and with your family, and making sure that those two things are not always taking over each other. You know, when the kids were little especially, I would go home from work and I would spend all that time that they were up with them and doing the things that they needed to do, whether it was, you know, sporting activities that we were doing, or it was homework that we were doing, or it was just watching some goofy show that we were watching because that's what they wanted to do, or reading a book, whatever it was. And then when they would go to bed is when I would pull out a laptop and I'd do my emails, and so often people would get emails from me at 10 and 11 o'clock at night because that is when I had time to go back and do it. And it was important to me that when I was with my family, I was with my family, and that when I was at work, I was at work.
I read that a lot. I'm sure a lot of you do it. Let me see your heads nod. Do you go back and do emails at 10 o'clock at night after you put the kids to sleep? I mean, a lot of people do that.
It's important, and we were talking about this earlier. I just went on vacation. I believe in a 2-week vacation. I believe that you should take 2 weeks and see you later.
Woo, let's hear it. Let's hear it. And you know what? Psychologists say, I read this years ago, that you need a week just to come down from your job. So that's true.
People that work for me, when they take vacation and they really take vacation, they are better at work when they come back because they're energized, they're ready to go. They've come up with some new ideas when they've been doing whatever they're doing on vacation that are really great. And so I'm a true believer, and you better take some time off. And if you don't take time off, I'm going to make you take time off because people get crazy when they don't. And that contributes to work-life balance. And, you know, we took an international trip this summer, which we've never done with the kids. We went to Ireland. Thank you to my colleague, Caroline Coyle, who's from Ireland and sent me on this drive. Don't believe her when she says there's dry ditches. There's no ditches. There are walls everywhere. But We drove the west coast to Ireland, and I changed my out-of-office email and said, I will have no access to email, which was a lie. I really did have access to email, but it was the first time I've ever done that because I didn't want to set the expectation of you're going to get a response from me. And yes, 3 times on the trip, I did lurk just to make sure nothing was on fire. But the only person I responded to was my assistant because I didn't want anybody to know I was looking. Because then all of a sudden they have some problem they can't solve. Well, you can solve it. If I'm not sitting there, you're solving it. And if the team falls apart because I'm on vacation, shame on me. Then I'm a terrible leader. And
Exactly.
so, you know, it was really important to me to do that. And about the, I don't know, 3rd or 4th day, my son goes, Mom, I haven't seen you check your phone. And I'm like, no, I haven't checked my phone. I was trying to take selfies. I wasn't very good. My arms aren't long enough. But I said,
You hold it
I
up.
couldn't do it.
That's the
I
key.
was a disaster. So, you know, they noticed the fact that I wasn't checking email. And I had left word at the office that, you know, if there was a crisis, somebody should text me because I would see it and notice it. But I think that's work-life balance. That's deciding that there are boundaries and drawing those lines and making sure that you're true to yourself.
That's really important. I worked for somebody one time who would never let us, none of the employees were allowed to say I'm out of the office. How about that one? You just couldn't. So that's very good. I appreciate that you could, in time, let your iPhone go. I've had trouble with that. It's important. Had trouble with that one?
Yeah, I have. I've actually, we vacation quite a bit, but I always have my phone, so I'll take some inspiration from you on that and try. But I think probably like a lot of people in the room, you know, I'm a 100%er, which means I struggle with work-life balance. I have a great family who supports me. My parents help me out. My husband, when he's in town, helps out. So I have great support, but I am pretty driven, and sometimes it's really hard to remind yourself to take a break. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me.
I used to go out to dinner. I'd see, you know, the parents on their phones and the kids on their phones and go, oh, tisk, 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 they're not speaking. My son and I are like, I'll have the enchilada, and then we go right back down. We order our food, go right back down. But now we designate, this is a talking dinner. Let's talk. Let's put we both decide, let's talk, let's catch up with each other. So it's challenging. Lillian, she's going to have something to say on this. I just have a feeling.
No, I was going to say, I agree. I agree with these other wonderful women. I mean, there were times when I wish I had done it differently. I was driven too, and I was running 1,000 miles an hour. I would walk into my house and I would be on the cell phone and some business, of course. And then sometimes until, 8, 9:30 at night, until my daughter would say, Mom, hello, I'm here. You just got home. Can we have a conversation? And she was one of the first people who when we would have dinner, she would say like, hello, I'm here. Stop looking at your emails.
Good.
So I think it's very hard to have balance. I think you have to decide at that moment in time, what do I need to be focused on and what do I need to be doing? Because at the end of the day, ladies, the other stuff will still be there. And now with my new team, I have a new life. I've turned over a new leaf. And they go, Lil, we have this. I go, you know what? Take care of your family. Take care of your children. This will still be here. Or if we're a good team, somebody else needs to pick it up.
That's a good point.
You know what? And we just go forward. Now, I will tell you though, 2 things that you absolutely cannot let go, and we do it so much. Please do not sacrifice your health. And please do not sacrifice your ability to like exercise and be mobile. And that doesn't mean I'm not suggesting that people need to run a marathon. And clearly this is not exercising every day. But I used to be a runner, and I tell you why I say that. My doctor tells me, sweetheart, you need to be on that treadmill every single day because I want you working out your stress. She doesn't even care about my weight. She tells me that given everyone in this room the type of work we do and the lives that we lead, we have to give ourselves anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes of exercise every day, even if you're just taking a nice walk, so you can deal with the stress and the toxins you create from the stress, because it does take a toll on your body.
Very good point. Very good point. I walk my dog Biscuit, and I hate working out. And my mother told me not to use the word hate. I don't really care to work out, and I'm not disciplined at all. And so I turned to my garage, which was just a place for hoarders. I had all my stuff in my garage. Now I emptied everything out, and it's my dance studio. I don't call it the workout or the gym, it's my dance studio. Because I read one time that Diane Sawyer said, well, how do you stay in shape or decompress, take care of yourself? She goes, I dance alone in my bedroom at night. I'm like, girl, Diane Sawyer said that, so I'm going to be dancing.
Yeah. And if I could add, the word that I want us to think about is mobility. And so as we age, you want to make sure that you have mobility. And it could be dancing, it could be walking the dog, whatever. And it doesn't have to be, that's why I said it doesn't have to be a 45-minute workout on the treadmill. It's just you want to make sure that you stay mobile, because that's, you age well.
I do think it's important that you don't use your family as an excuse. I think as women, people expect other women to use their children or some commitment as an excuse. You don't hear any man saying, I can't do that because I have to go pick up my kids at school. Most men don't say it, even if they do have to go pick up their kids at school. And I think for women, I have said to my team before, it doesn't matter what you have to do. Why are you explaining? You know, you are able to do this or you're not able to do it. And if you're not able to do it, then let's find somebody else who can. But you don't have to explain why. Because I do think as much as, you know, I love my male colleagues, there are times when they'll hold it against you. And, you know, especially if they don't have children and they don't have that pull and they don't have that responsibility, that it's easy for people to think, oh yeah, she's got to go because, you know, she's got to go pick somebody up. And it doesn't matter who you're picking up. Why does it matter whether it's your kids or your mother or your father or, you know, whoever it is? I think that it's important not to use it as an excuse. You know, you have to make sure that you know what you need to do, and then you need to make sure you make a plan to do it.
That's good. I used to work with a reporter once, and we knew that Kathy could not stay late on the news on Thursdays because she had her manicurist appointment. And her manicurist was her psychologist, was her therapist. So it wasn't her family, but we all knew, don't make Kathy stay on Thursday. Get to your manicure. Get to your sanity. We are going to open it up for Q&A. We want to hear from you. Don't want to bore and just be the only person asking questions, so just be ready. In a few minutes, we want to ask you questions. But I want to talk to you because I think, you know, I can see you now. I like, I can't see you again. Do that again. You know, it's a new day in the world of business with the millennials, and there are no offices with the new entrepreneurial spirit. You sit around with your laptop, you know, and there's what the founder of Tumblr, you don't even have meetings with that guy. There are no meetings, but he figures it out. So I'm just curious, as far as who you look for in your hiring. I have a gnat in front of me. Who you look for in your hiring and how you do that with hiring. Because one of the guys that founded Flickr said that when he used to hire people, he would ask 3 questions. 1, math, what's 3 times 17? Geography, name 3 countries in Africa. And history, when was the French Revolution? You can be off 200 or 400 years. Love that. But he said he didn't care if they got it right. He just wanted to know, were they curious about the world? Isn't that kind of cool? He doesn't do that anymore. Now he more emphasizes on empathy. Do you have empathy? I think we're all saying that that's important. Can you appreciate other people around you? And something else, Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, I think here in Vegas, he said, I think I heard him speak once, he said that they pay attention to how the interviewee, the prospective employee, treats the driver on the way in. Like, were you nice? You know, were you polite? What have you? Did you speak to them? So I just think all of that's very interesting. Do you have any formula for when you decide you're looking for somebody to promote or to hire? What you look for in them? Anything that's unique to your way of doing things?
I pay attention to the questions people ask me. I want to know how curious they are about what we do and how we do it, and how much they've researched, sort of not just the top line stuff, but gotten a little deeper into the issues and into the work that we do and what we represent. It didn't matter whether it was government or nonprofit or at Coca-Cola now. Just what do you want to know? How curious are you? Energy level. You can pick up those things in interviews.
So I always forget when I've been interviewed, oh yeah, they're going to say, do you have any questions for me? And I go, oh, I forgot, you know. So that's important, because you got to look like you're engaged in the company.
Especially in public relations and media, if you don't have questions.
Not good. It's not good.
It's going to be a problem.
For me, attitude, and energy are the two. When you're in local government, that you want to really make sure, because pay isn't always that great, you want to make sure that they feel, that the person feels some energy for what the organization is all about and what you're moving towards. And a long time ago, when my very first boss told me, you know, we can always train you on the technical stuff. You can't train attitude. You bring attitude innately, and so that's something we always look for. Attitude and energy.
We've heard energy twice now, so remember that one?
I would agree with what they both said, and then I think the other thing is in promotions, when people are looking for a promotion, history matters. And when we needed somebody to step up and do something extra, that matters, whether you built that track record of being reliable, and whether you were there when we needed help on a project that wasn't your responsibility, but we needed help. And so all of those things, I think, help lead towards that next step in a career. And it's a small world, and you said it earlier, you never know where people are going to show up. And so you may want to promote up through, and then you end up somewhere else, or somebody else ends up as your boss. And if you are a lousy employee, you're going to have a hard time promoting up through. And so I think history really does matter when you are looking at promotion opportunities.
Very good. Okay, so who wants to come to the microphone first? Who wants to show us your energy and your good attitude and your ability to ask questions? I think I see some people moving. Is it the one microphone we have here in the middle? Well, you're going to have to get up and stand up in front of everybody.
The lights.
Come on in. Thank you. Come on in. Yay, girl in blue shirt. First one. Let's hear it. Appreciate it. You can tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Patricia Deepin. I am from San Diego. I work at Viejas Resort and Casino in San Diego. I am a bingo manager, so I am the manager of the department. So my question is for you, all of you. Being a new manager and a director in a position, I've had many role models in the industry and outside of the industry that we talked about before, men and women. Who were your specific role models for each one of you, whether it be a famous person or somebody that you knew personally?
I like it. Well, since I've always looked at you to go first, I'll go first, okay? Role model, my mom, who was a working mom, and even though she was a valedictorian of her high school, she didn't get to go to college. So she went to college at night throughout my childhood for 20 years. And she hated that I said that because it made her sound like she couldn't get this work done. But she only had time because she was a working mother and the money to take one course per semester. And if that course wasn't offered, she had to sit out. So after 20 years, my mom graduated with an English degree in honors on my birthday when I was 28. How about that? And yeah, my mentor, I like a good whoa from people. My mentor was Judy Woodruff, a female a journalist that came up before me that worked in Washington. I felt like the women that could work inside the Beltway and Washington politics, and I just break out in sweat if I have to do a political interview. You can't do it. I'm from the South. You just can't. You're not supposed to ask tough questions. I just can't stand it when people don't get along. But so I am not cut out for inside the Beltway, but for tough female journalists that could just get in there and ask the tough questions. We have one named Kyung La that I really admire now. Just saw her running around with her microphone in LA where she's based the other day, going after somebody. But for me, it was female journalists that kind of paved the way. And just after I got into the business, I admired Katie Couric a lot because before Katie Couric came on the Scenes Today show, the female in the morning on the Today Show was expected to be, glam squad, fingernails done, this is how we do things. And when Katie Couric got there, they were like, we need to grow out your fingernails and get the manicure. She's like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not me. So I just liked it that she brought an authentic look. She helped us all be authentic on the air, be who we were. So I rattled on too long.
My mentor is a local lady here. She's retired, but she was the general manager of the Southern Nevada Water Authority, and she is just a badass in infrastructure. Not a lot of women in infrastructure, but this woman is a badass. I love her. And when I first became the general manager of the RTC, the Regional Transportation Commission, we went out for drinks to celebrate, and her advice to me was so clear and powerful and has worked so well. Her advice to me was, remember, even though you report to a board, That board isn't necessarily really your boss. Your boss is the entire community, because you could get a crackpot on your board who wants to get rid of you. But if you've got a community that supports you, if you've got leadership in Southern Nevada in the business world that supports you, then you will always be able to move forward the agenda that you've got. If you're moving in the interest of the community, you'll be able to be very effective.
I like that response. Set up an individual. Kathy?
I had really two big influences. My mom raised 9 kids. My dad was a heavy equipment operator, and my mom, when I was a kid, worked in a slipper factory. And one of my deepest memories is her coming home covered in fuzz. If you ever known anybody who works in a slipper factory, it's piecework.
I've never known anyone who's worked in a slipper factory. I didn't know there were
Tough
slipper
work,
factories.
and they probably aren't around anymore. They probably ship them out somewhere. But you know, back in that time, that's all she really had time for. It was very set hours, and it was piecework. And she'd come home, and her fingers would be bleeding, and she'd be covered in fuzz. And I always thought, oh my God, I never want to do that. But man, she was a badass, and she raised 9 kids, and there was no screwing around. And so she really still, to this day, I'll call her sometimes and be like, wah! She's like, say your prayers. I'm like, okay, I'm praying, nothing's happening. But you know, she really has that deep sense of faith, and really, if you believe enough and try hard enough, that you know things aren't always fair, and you need to get over yourself. And so she's had a big influence on me. And when I moved here, my first boss here, John Wilson, who I credit with a lot, you know, I started here and I had been trying to get pregnant for a couple years prior to us moving here, and it wasn't happening. And so right when we were getting ready to move from New York, I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh crap. You know, that time that was a thing, you know, you just didn't really do that 20 years ago. And show up, oh yeah, I'm pregnant, by the way, I need some time off. And I thought, oh, it's fine, because he's a nice family man. And I got here and I found out that he's gay, and I was like, oh crap, he doesn't have any kids, and now I'm gonna get fired, and what am I gonna do? And he was awesome, and still to this day influences me. But his whole thing was, you know what, you have to believe in yourself, stop making excuses, figure out your path, and relationships matter. And so, you know, those are things that just continue to carry me forward, is that, you know, get over yourself and make a plan and follow it.
Your gay boss and your mom, we appreciate that.
I just say also my mom, she went to school and got her bachelor's, and I remember the year that I graduated with my bachelor's, she was getting her master's. So she was very focused on education and also being independent, even though, you know, she had a long-term marriage to my dad. And then the other one was someone who I worked with in healthcare in New York, who's still around. She runs the Academy of Medicine. But I'll never forget the nicest compliment she paid to me was she was leaving Health and Hospitals Corporation in New York, the entity she ran, and she wrote a note and said, always, you have style and substance. Always have style and substance. And that always stayed with me, that it's not all about this, that it's got to be here and here as well. And so that's the advice that I give people. Like, don't go around working like you're with a flourish. Where's the substance? Where's...
Bring it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, I think we should do it. And it's like, no. Put it on a piece of paper. Let's commit it.
That's what we say in our business. Style and substance. Okay, another great question. Thank you. And let us know where you work. Cute skirt. I'll call her cute skirt. Last was blue top.
I'm Valerie Onsudas, and I work for Enrichment Technology in New Mexico. I wanted to ask each of you, even though you had touched on the subject, because I find myself in this part of my career where you said you age into that respect. But what do I do now?
I'll tell you.
Before I get to age into that.
She's got the style down. She definitely has the style down. Okay,
So
we don't
we're
all have to answer because there's a lot of people in line.
Okay, I'll do it really fast because I know how you're feeling right now, been there. You know what? Build your fan club right now. This is the opportunity. You have the opportunity right now to get into some areas that once you get promoted, you can't get into. You have the ability to tap into people who you know are going to be going somewhere as well. And you can just identify them, right? Sometimes there's just like this light bulb, this shine, it's this aura about somebody. You know they're going to be going somewhere. Become friends with those kinds of people right now, because those are the people who are going to carry you forward. As you do get promoted, as you do get elevated, they will too. And they'll become, you'll become fraternity or sorority of some sort, where you're each other's fan club, and you're building the energy. There's the word energy again, but you're building that momentum together, and it's very powerful if you can do that. But this is the time in your career to do that. Build your fan club.
I'm going to give you a tougher answer, even though that's the right answer.
Oh.
I've worked with a lot of young women. I would say, look at your makeup, look at how you dress, what you're giving off, whether it looks too youthful, too sexy, to anything. I hate to say this, and I know you'll all be mad at me afterwards, but people are looking at those things and they all count. So I had to go in with a real seriousness of purpose, and I know we're in the 21st century and we don't like to hear these things, but people are judging those things. So I knew I had to have my skirt a certain length so that, you know, people weren't looking at me a certain way.
Hey, Lillian, how does
All
this
of
make you feel?
I gotta tell you something, I think it's terrific, and I like a lot that you have great legs, because I'm all into, I mean, you know, I think that the women are, I love women are amazing, but I can tell you that I knew, look, I had a conversation once where a guy, your age, you're about 26, 27?
29.
Okay, well, you look great, even younger. I'm sitting in a hallway with a guy, and he's talking to me. He was a lawyer, and I go, excuse me, I'll give him any name, Juan, my face is up here, because he was talking to my hips, and they don't talk back. And I wasn't being provocative. I'm just saying it's the truth, guys. I know we don't like talking about that stuff. We get oversensitive and we think, but those things matter in a workplace. They just do.
Thank you. And cute skirt, you really start to get a life in your 30s, I promise. So 30s are going to be great, because in your 20s, I worked my ass off. I did anything anyone said, and I had no life, but it gets better every decade. Who's next? Pretty hair.
Thank you.
See, it's all about the style.
Good afternoon. My name is Carintha Tervalon. I am a cocktail server at Mandalay Bay, but I'm also going to graduate school at UNLV for journalism.
Good girl.
I'd eventually love to be like Miss Natalie Allen over here. Those are my aspirations professionally. The question that I had for this panel today is, what kinds of qualities would you like to see exemplified in the younger generation of female leaders that's coming up through the ranks?
What kind of qualities for
How
younger?
about-
I like
that's a
that.
hard question.
Well, I can tell you what, they're already going to be more confident, and I think women today will have more confidence than perhaps what. I'm older than Lillian, okay? I'm just trying to say, some of us that have worked forever, you know, you were the only woman there, and I think that girls today will have more confidence. What do you guys think?
I think the thing that I look for in younger employees that are looking for positions and, you know, either starting in the organization or moving up is be aware of what you don't know and look for opportunities to fill in those gaps, because there's a lot of gap years, right? There's a lot of opportunity to do something that is not really your job, but it gives you an opportunity to learn something new, so that you have that confidence, but you also have the experience to back it up. So, you know, recently we've been filling some positions, and once in a while people come in, I'm like, they had no answers for anything. I don't care what I asked them. The sky is blue, the sky is still blue. And so at the end of the day, it's filling in those gaps, and so that you're well-rounded and you have a reason to be confident because you really have some depth, and anybody can have that in whatever area they're in.
Confidence, so that's our takeaway. My first time on a job, since you're going into broadcasting, stay right there. I went out, okay, I'm a reporter now. I have my notepad and my pen, and I shot my own stories in Fort Smith. But I'm going to ask questions, and I got back. I put my paper next to my typewriter. Oh, this is scary. Put my carbons in the typewriter and started to write my story. I'm like, I didn't ask anything important. I didn't ask anything important. I had nothing, and I didn't follow up. I wasn't really listening. I wasn't getting what I needed for the story. Listen to. Confidence and listen. All right, thank you very much, and good luck. We'll talk smack about journalism later, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. Lime green, come on down. Love it.
I really want to be known as Great Necklace, but I'll go with lime green.
Tomorrow.
I'll wear a bigger one tomorrow. My name's Claire Raymond. I'm one of the cage supervisors at Excalibur here in town. My daughters are, I have to do the math, 15 and 17. And their generation that I see among them and their friends is they regard everybody as a blank slate until they get to know them, and then they base their judgments upon that, which is awesome. That's more than how my parents raised me. Now, you are mentoring the future management that will be hiring them later in their career after they go to college and finish graduate school. What do you see? Because I feel that sexism is almost beginning to take a back seat. What do you see as the bigger stumbling blocks that are coming for our teenage girls that they're going to have to be aware of and rise above once they graduate college?
Social media. They need to own what they put online. I think the biggest mistake people make is everything's out there, and people are gonna, it's not a blank slate because you put your whole life out there, and so it does matter. And I think for that generation, especially as they come up, that will be something that could either help them out or bite them in the butt.
I was going to say resiliency. I think that unfortunately some of the young people that we're raising them without resiliency. We give them everything. The immediacy of technology and social media and the way we just live our lives now makes them think that everything can be had at a moment's notice, and when they can't have it, they get frustrated and they walk away. We've been fixing a lot of things for our kids for too long. So we need to find a way to make them resilient. They need to know that it's okay to fail. Mom and dad don't need to fix everything.
Thank you.
Like it. I like it. A lot of young people, I was reading something recently that think that they should already be so successful at a young age. I mean, I was schlepping for many years.
You told the story about grit this morning. I agree. That's something that it seems to be lacking a little bit. I think if that younger generation displays just the slightest bit of grit, you kind of get excited. You're like, yes, there's one. Yes, let's keep that one.
I like that. Yes. Casual, light blue. I like the casual
Pretty
look.
plain Jane today, so.
The cool colors. I like it.
So I'm Kate Schofield. I work for the Whiting Turner Contracting Company, and it's kind of funny what you were just talking about because I'm a little young and I probably have a lot more time to put in, but I'm just kind of curious what your kind of breakthrough moment was, or if you really had that aha moment, and if it, obviously, I'm sure the answer is going to have a bit of luck and a bit of hard work or a lot of hard work, but I don't know, do you have that really moment where it hit? Because I kind of feel like I'm starting to get ready for that opportunity and I'm ready for it, but I don't know if it's just something that kind of comes your way or you just really have to, grab it by the reins and make it happen.
Ooh, I think grab it and make it happen for the most part. You get lucky every once in a while, but I like the grab concept and sell yourself. What do you have to offer someone mentality. My breakthrough moment was when I called my mother as an unpaid intern, and said, the third story that the anchor reads, it's 20 seconds long, and I wrote it. I was so excited. Something I wrote. The anchor finally didn't go, now that's your lead way down here, start it over and put it way up here. He read something I wrote. So it could be something from your intern days or something the day that it took 3 months to get a job at CNN after I interviewed. And then we had to do a fake newscast. We had a fake plane crash, all these things they put you through. And then when they called and said, you got the job, I knew, lucky, luck, Lillian.
This is going to sound probably a little esoteric. My breakthrough moment was when I realized that it wasn't the what, it was the why. Meaning that I didn't have to know what we were doing or what had to be done, but why it needed to be done. And that's the real breakthrough moment for me in terms of leadership. So what am I trying to say? When you are working and you're sitting with wonderful women like this, listen and get behind the why. Find out why we have to do something a certain way, or why they shifted gears, or why they approached this person that way. Because if you know the why, you can replicate it anywhere you are. Because the what I can teach, go ahead and do X, Y, Z. But when you know why you have to do something, then you've really grown in your career.
Thank you.
Is
Thank you
that
so
too much? Did you guys
Good
get
luck.
that?
Good luck to you. All right, flared pant. I love myself a good flared pant.
Come on, baby, light my fire. I am a powerful, courageous, empowering woman. Doesn't mean that's what I do for a living. I own the largest privately held payroll service bureau in the state of Nevada. And I guess my number one concern is when I go talk to other business women, when I do a human resource engagement for employment and bring the team together between employee and employer, I have a big challenge with women like yourselves, me included, on engaging other women to take on one more thing in everything you all have said, because you all have children, you're successful in business, you're a role model to communities and beyond. How do I get other women to understand servitude, pay it forward to the youth, while they realize that they're being a student as well? Because as succeeders, our technology level is much smaller in our evolution in our age group than it is for them.
Do I understand the question?
Yeah.
How do I engage other successful women to help youth when you're already so busy and you're stressed out and you don't have time and you barely get your workouts in or your diet right?
I got it.
Well, this too shall pass. I mean, there are certain cycles in life where you really are busy. You really do have a lot going on. But all cycles, they come around. And when you're not as busy as when you probably are going to be very excited about getting more involved and giving back, because there's nothing more fulfilling than doing that. And a question when I am feeling busy or feeling challenged, one of the things that I'll say to myself is, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And a lot of times that'll help you answer the question too.
So does that mean you're raising your hand?
Oh, to do more.
Yes. Is that the right answer?
I'm getting your business card. Don't run and hide.
You know, I think it's making it doable. You know, to be perfectly honest with you, people will get me to agree to something that is doable, that is not this big, giant, huge commitment, because I already have big, giant, huge commitments, and I don't have time in my head for one more giant, huge commitment. But when there are smaller commitments, a lot of times those smaller commitments keep leading onto each other, and I keep saying yes for reasons that are beyond me. But I think it's making it doable. I think at this time, and it can't just be this, you know, never-ending thing for me. It's got to have a start and a finish, and I can do it, and I can feel good about it, and then I can decide whether I want to do more start and finish, or whether I need to move on to something else.
It can't be something that's going to go into the too tough pile.
Yeah.
We learned that this morning,
Yeah.
remember?
I like that.
Thank you very much, and good luck, and thank you for being a leader in Nevada. That's great. Okay, pretty pulled back hair, the rocking
and
the ponytail.
she's got the requisite black jacket.
Oh, I know.
She
Look at
could be
that
on our
skirt.
team.
I like the whole thing.
Wonderful. I'd love to be on your team. Hello. I've really enjoyed this panel thus far.
Thank you.
I've appreciated you guys' candor. And hello to all the beautiful women. My name is Amber Riley. I am in pharmaceuticals, and I just left Merck & Company from Durham, North Carolina, so I'm out here from a very long way. And my question is, I am 29, I'm married, and I just gave birth 3 months ago to a son.
All right.
I think over the last 5 years working at Merck, I've noticed a shift of people treating me more gently, especially when I got pregnant, and then after I got pregnant, after I had the baby and came back to work. And so my question is how, since all of you have had children and have been in the workforce, how to navigate when you're trying to be a leader, but everyone wants to treat you a little more gently because...
Oh, you're a working mom now. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
How old is your child?
3 months.
You see, I had to shift
Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Eat it up now.
What I was gonna say to you was, I love these two ladies. We have to hang out.
I
afterwards.
know.
You just got back to work, so you probably were on a little bit of a maternity leave, and they just have to adjust to having you back into the routine of the office and knowing that you're there and you're able to work and contribute full time, you will send a message of how hard and quick you can run.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that's my opinion. That's
they'll
my
forget.
advice.
They just want to talk about the baby right now. How's the baby?
You know what I'm saying? Because she's just back into the work, so people are kind of sensitive. They want to give her some time and space to figure out.
But I can
your
identify. I
routines.
think we can probably all identify with how you're feeling. I think I felt the same way too. It's like, no, I'm still Tina. I'm still me. But again, this too shall pass before you even know it, and it won't matter.
They're just giving you extra consideration while you figure out your routines. What's your boss's name? I'll call them. I'll say, my girl is like,
She's got this.
ready. She's ready to
got
go.
This.
In fact, the baby's like somewhere in the back room. Maybe might get fed, maybe not, Just kidding, love.
And another thing is I find nursing hard. I'm nursing and doing that pumping every 3 hours. And even
I got this one.
Yeah.
Okay. I got this one. Yes, same thing at CNN. In fact, before the pumping, it'd be like, ratings, they're out to here. And then after the pumping, it'd be like, no ratings.
Oh, that is funny. You had assets.
I had assets.
You had added value.
So, and I even went to a job interview at NBC and said, may I have a moment? Thank goodness the HR person was female. Take my pump machine. So yeah, it's very challenging. I used to tell the guy, I had to cover the desk for breaking news, and I would go up to my supervisor, Jerry, I'm going to go up to the lactation. He's like, don't tell me about going to the lactation room. Just go. So it's crazy. But you're not the only one bringing your machine to work and doing that. It is very hard. You'll figure it out. I did.
All right.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
I have a staff person who just is in your situation. She just gave birth recently. She was like pumping in my office. She was like, I know, Lil, I'll leave. And I'm like, honey, not the first that I've seen, and won't be the last. I have my own. I see them occasionally too.
Thank you so much. Okay, we've gotten to pumping and lactation. We're doing good. All right, look at this jacket. Favorite jacket?
Hi, I'm Julie Lindsay. I'm from here in Las Vegas, and I work for United Blood Services. This is actually my second career. I've been with my job for 10 years. The advice I got from a friend of mine who switched from the theater world, which was my previous world, my life, and went into corporate America, her advice to me was, don't wear a lot of makeup, don't wear heels, don't talk with any energy, don't have any passion, calm down and be business-like.
That is a bad friend.
Well, and so what my comment to
she
you guys
alive?
is thank you. You know what? She moved to Boston. I haven't seen her in ever. What I appreciate from you guys is you're real. You are so real. You speak from the heart. You're fashionable, and you're just fabulous to be around. And I appreciate that. The theme that you keep talking about with the younger ladies here, aging into your job. I don't have a lot of time to age into my job.
I know.
I will be in the graveyard if I have to wait 20 more years. Do you have any advice for those of us who came into corporate America maybe later in life and are at, let's just say, about 14, 15 years away from retirement?
First,
I'm 52.
I made the comment. I need to clarify that. What I was saying was that sometimes for, and I don't know your age. You look
I'm
very.
the same age as you.
You
I'm
look
52.
you look very young.
Thank you.
I was saying is that sometimes for younger women in the workplace that are like 22, 23, 24, they come in with a seriousness of purpose and they don't get treated that way because people practice ageism. But that's certainly not always the case for everyone, particularly if you're mature or more mature in terms of age. So I just want to clarify that. I was really talking about folks. So sorry, what was the question?
So she's second job. She's in corporate now, and she needs to be on a fast track because she's 52 and she wants to go. Is that your question?
You have to be open to opportunities. I only came to Coca-Cola 3.5 years ago. I came in as a director, and then 2 years into my work at the company, I became a vice president. I made sure that I was contributing. Folks knew of my work ethic and the value that I could bring to the company, and I didn't make it my job to run around networking with everybody and their mom. I don't want to, give that impression, but I did make sure that strategically I could, if I met people, I was interested in what they were doing. I was able to articulate very well what I could do, what my history was, what my core competencies were as a manager within the system, and that I really loved the company and I was willing to take on other opportunities. That's really important. When I came in at 49, so as you can imagine, people were like, what's she doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I totally get that. Yeah.
Go get your Social Security, girl.
See, I'm a concept person. In my world, 2 + 2 is sometimes 7, and sometimes it's 4. Who says it has to be 4? Because sometimes it can be 7. That's the way I sort of look at my job, which to someone who is an analytical or an owl or an analyzer, they kind of freaks them out. But
You're freaking me out just even saying that.
See, I have 3 accountants in my family. 3 accountants, and 2 + 2 is sometimes 7 in my world. So imagine what my father says about me too. So yeah.
We think you got it going on.
I actually think that's great. When you're building a team, you want to have that balance. We were talking about the fact that I've got some strengths, but that I'm really proud of, but I've got some weaknesses too. But bringing in the people who balance out those weaknesses, I would think that your way of seeing the world would be great for balancing out certain teams. I think you should market yourself based on that.
Do it.
Yeah.
2 + 2 is 7.com.
All right. I like it. All right. Black and gold, my college colors. Come on down. We've got time for 3 of you, and then we've got to wrap it up.
I'm Lillian McMorris, and I do public relations and marketing, and I also host a community television show for Cox Communications. My question, and it's actually more of a statement, with today's world, computers, iPads, electronics, everything is instant gratification. Whereas we used to go into human resources, fill out an application, perhaps have a pre-interview, get called back for another interview. That no longer occurs. You send everything in via email or via the website. So how, in each one of your arenas, do you actually get the opportunity to speak to that person, to find out about their personality and who they really are, not who they are on paper, but
as part of the hiring process?
I think that's a terrible thing we've come to. I don't know about you, but I think I don't hire people, but I think that's terrible. If you can't sit across from somebody and kind of figure them out.
And it's the same thing with networking now. We all, and I'm very guilty, we're LinkedIn, we're Facebooking, we're doing everything except handing that card and spending that 3 to 5 minutes talking to that person and really finding out where they are and who they are.
Thank you for bringing that up, Cox Communications, because let's all do it differently, okay? As we become managers, I think we should do it differently. And go
We don't hire without in-person interviews. I mean, that would just be the first cut, but definitely people always get seen.
We actually over-interview. And you still have to bring in your application to the LVCVA. I don't think you can do it online yet.
But you do see a lot of what she's saying, so I think it's unfortunate. Thank you for bringing that out. We really appreciate it. So hopefully that won't be the trend. Okay, let's bring the greens in.
Hi, my name is Robin Woods, and I am an assistant interior designer here in town, as well as a student at UNLV. And my question is, you had talked about making, wow, my voice is really loud. Okay. Making your community your biggest supporter. Would you find that being a part of community, like groups that collaborate together, do you think that helped progress you through your,
I'm going to answer for me. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You say it, Kathy, you keep saying it's all about relationships. Yes, it is, because in the end, how else are you going to get exposure? How else are you going to build your fan club? those who are going to support you, and you in turn are going to support them. How else are you going to do it if you're not out in the community getting to know these people? Yes, I say get involved, get to know people in your industry and outside of your industry. That's going to make all the difference in the world in your career. I really believe that.
So things like Rotary clubs
Absolutely.
and sororities.
Oh my gosh, and you meet the neatest people. You meet people who care as well. And it can be very inspiring.
But you know what? Do it authentically. Do it organically.
Yeah.
Don't be one of those folks that people can tell when somebody's just there working a room and looking past you to the next person who might be more important or more influential.
Can't be just about the business
It can't
card
just
swap.
be about the do things that you are interested in, that you think, yes, absolutely, you can build your career, trade associations. I agree with that. My networks were always really, really important, and they continue to be.
It's really how you'll find out about opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that some of the best jobs I've had have come through weird and mysterious ways that I may not even have been looking, but I was working with other people, and then there was an opportunity, and they said, hey, if you're interested and suddenly you're interested in something that you never thought you might be interested in.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
So look, okay, Green, this is going to be our last two. We got to wrap it up.
Hello, my name is Aisha Kidd. I'm one of the Learning and Development Managers at Mandalay Bay. First of all, I want to just say thank you. I know all of us are really appreciative of your time.
Thank you.
I have one question. It's really about branding, and I want to know, and for the sake of time, maybe only one answers, but when in your career did you figure out what it is that thing that sets you apart from everybody else, and that you were then willing to promote in that positive way? So what is it about yourself that sets you apart, that you feel like is really different than a colleague or someone else, or the thing that you promote about yourself as far as branding goes?
I think your personal brand is powerful, right? And figuring out what you bring to a team that is different than what everybody else brings to a team is what will set you apart and push you forward. And I am not afraid to listen to people and then really have an opinion. And a lot of people, they have an opinion, but they won't voice it. And so, finding an appropriate way to voice your opinion personally, is part of my personal brand. And it's what I can bring to a team that'll help make that team stronger. And I think everybody needs to figure out what is the thing that they bring to the team that's unique, that is personally theirs, that they can then add to a group of people.
Okay, thank you. What have you got to bring to the table? Okay, last question. Pretty long dress. I like the maxi.
Thank you. Yeah. My name is Ann Blythe Bellis, and I am a college professor and a licensed therapist, and I've created a new class called the Psychology of Happiness, and it's really based on the scientific study of what makes people happy. It's a new area of psychology. And I'm also putting together presentations. Do you think there's a place for this in the corporate world?
For happiness?
The scientific study of happiness and training and exercises that you can do to enhance your happiness and sense of well-being.
I think so. My gut feeling is bring it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? My goodness. I am in perpetual overdrive, and I'm just, remember, catching up and falling back and catch up. So yes, it sounds good.
Where would you suggest I start?
Coke.
Okay.
Open happiness.
There you go. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
No,
That was
seriously, there's a lot of focus on well-being. She walked away, but there's a big focus on well-being and how do you make the workplace a place where people can feel that they can contribute more, they can have better outcomes. All of this stuff is tied in together. If people come into work and they're not happy, if they're not grounded, if they don't feel like they're in an environment where they can grow, you're not going to have the most productive people. So people are actually looking at that and figuring out what kind of training can be offered to employees across many companies. I know a lot of people, by the way, Nielsen, Comcast, Coke.
Yeah,
So
CNN, we're crazy.
CNN, there's definitely a place for that because people are looking at it. We spend too much time in the workplace not to. It's never going to make you happy. Like I tell people, it's not your family. It's not Bali in the summer, but you should have a sense of contentment and accomplishment.
Feeling fulfilled.
Let's end on that one, and you ask your question for us when we're done, okay? You want to get it in? Come on, Peach. Come on, Peach. I'm from the Peach State. Let's do it.
I know many of these ladies. Whoa.
She runs a magazine.
And I have a quick question, and it's the hard question. I want to end with a hard question, and it's equal pay for equal work. What are you ladies doing about that topic, and what do you recommend the leaders here do about that topic within their own business?
I like that one. I know, that's a tough one. So many women don't ask, first of all, for raises. We've talked about that. Most women don't. Women leaders will tell you that, so stick up for yourself, first of all. That's a very important topic. When I started out, I made $38,000 my second job at the end of the job, and my co-anchor that I sat next to made $115,000. So that was tough for me. I was younger, but I
think you have to make a case and you have to not let it go. So at the end of the day, there needs to be a reason why you're asking for more money or why you think your position is more valuable. There needs to be a business case that makes sense, and then you also need to not just let it go. Just because somebody said no the first time doesn't mean the answer is no. And so for me, it's figuring out who are your champions and making sure you're making your case to your champions and making sure you're not just walking away as soon as the first person tells you no, because you're going to get a lot of no's.
Don't take no. Come back with the follow-up. We want to end on that one? Don't take
Well,
no?
Mr. Chair, well, in local government, certainly this is always a very sensitive topic, and this one that we have to constantly make sure that we're not violating. And so on an annual basis, we do go through the pay, at least of our managers, and make sure that we've got equity, that things are never too far out of whack. It is something consciously we have to do.
It's good to hear.
And just so Coca-Cola has a very aggressive program and initiative around women and women's leadership as well. And it starts from the top. Our chairman, Muhtar Kant, not only created a Women's Leadership Council, but also a program, and then something called 5x20. The sense of it is that women lead their households and their families with their very important husbands and partners, but women really contribute greatly to sort of the economic, social, and political stability of their communities. And if women are not doing well, then the entire family and community doesn't do well. So we actually are in a multi-year commitment.
It's very good to hear.
Called 5x20 to empower 5 million women by the year 2020.
Go apply it at places like this and write about it on social media so women will know the good places to go to that treat women fairly. Tina, Kathy, Lillian, thank you all for your great questions and your response. Thank you so much. Now it's time to network, so go do it. Then you go into your breakout session. Hope it's great. I'll see you at the 5 p.m. reception, and have a great afternoon. Thank you so much. It was so nice. It was fun. Yeah. Diet Coke break. I meant to say that.